This is Free Press Fail. I'm excited to launch our first episode of this longer form video series we're doing. So I don't get cut off at the 60-second mark, and I'm thinking maybe I can cut down my word count just a little bit. I've been talking really fast lately. But I'm so excited to announce our co-host and introduce John Burnett. John is managing director at Empire One, or One Empire, I'm so sorry. And he is the executive vice chairman of the New York Republican Party, which I think is the most impressive thing. Somehow he's a Republican surviving in New York. So happy to have you on, John. Thanks so much for doing this with me.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm excited about this opportunity to work with you.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. We're going to try to do this like weekly little news updates, just fun conversational news you can listen to on your drive home kind of thing. So we'll just get into it. Top news of the week, Elon Musk everywhere. Can't escape the guy. First, it was announced he bought 10% of Twitter. That was enough of an outrage. And then yesterday, he just upped the stakes and he's like, actually, I'll take the whole thing. So here's my offer. And liberals are just losing their minds over this.
Yep, absolutely. Well, the thing is, I think it was just shy of 10%, like just under, but he was about to cross it. And the board got nervous. They offered him a seat, but it was conditional, right? Saying that you can't reach 15% ownership, right? Because they fear that if he gets too much control, right, that he'll end up changing management's decision, the culture, the focus, the platform, in essence. And, Elon Musk is Elon Musk. He's independent. He shut that down. He says, I'm not interested in a board seat, especially when it comes to those conditions. And then he ended up releasing an offer that was rejected. And now the firm is scrambling, trying to figure out, how to prevent him from a hostile takeover, which is, invoking poison pill type of tactics.
Yeah. What my favorite thing is that I feel like Elon just has so much money. It must be just crazy to have this kind of fun. Right after it was announced that he had like a 9.5% share or whatever, he started doing Twitter polls of like how he should change the company. Like, should I kick this person out? Should we have an edit button? What if we make the character count limit longer or shorter or whatever? And I just think he knew that people are freaking out and he's like, let's freak them out more. It's like all a game to him. And he's been having a lot of fun with it. I don't think liberals are very happy about it. And it just shows like Elon is fun to watch, but to watch the people who are coming out against him, I think says more than anything he's ever going to say. There's this whole group of people who thinks the left should have full control of every communications outlet. Like Washington Post came out and said, like, it's not fair if rich people control comms. Like, who owns the Washington Post? Like,
exactly.
There's no awareness at all. So I've just been having fun watching them like totally deconstruct these crazy ideas they have that just really reveals like the reason they're upset about this is because they think they belong in power here and they think they should be deciding who talks and who doesn't and what information actually gets out to the public.
True. But the fact that he put out there the edit button and some other teasers shows that he really understands how people use Twitter and interface with Twitter and possibly some features that, the public would love to see. On top of that, he's also teasing the financial world, right? When you look at Twitter's share price way back when in 2016, just before the election, it was in the teens. Mm-hmm. Then when Trump got elected, all the way up to the point where he was about to leave office, Twitter peaked at approximately, somewhere in the 70s, maybe mid 70s, right? So that's a huge growth and spike that gained more followers, more usage, more interest in Twitter. So free speech sells. Free speech is actually good for the stock. So Elon Musk is focusing on, yes, the rights and the principles of our, one of the founding principles of our nation, but at the same time, he understands value creation, and free speech creates value.
Absolutely. And someone's got to do something for this market because it is terrible. And that was like our next story is inflation's at a 40-year high, which I think people are probably tired of hearing by now because every time a new inflation rate comes out, it's a 40-year high. We're at 8.5% now, which is probably realistically like 20 because of the way they've changed the inflation rates. And the saddest thing is when you're looking through all of these numbers, that biggest increases are gas prices, rent, groceries. These are like inescapable costs for every family. It's not like, oh, the inflation's really up on yachts today. It's really hurting the Biden family. This is stuff that hurts rural Americans, middle class Americans, and there's just no one is doing anything about it. Biden wants to spend more money to fix it, which obviously
Right.
feeds into the problem.
So when you look at it, you mentioned a lot of staple items, right, and necessities that people need to spend. I live in New York City. If I want to, I can just hop on the train or bus. And there's a lot of places within America where that's not really an option when you want to get around quickly, go to work, drop kids off to school, and so forth. So when you look at gas, when you look at food items, when you look at everything across the board is up 10%. Yeah, we could say, 8.5, 10%. Some things are 15%, but we need to actually start talking dollars, right? Because they translate the percentage into actual dollars. And when you look at working class budgets that were already strained, right, that is a huge impact. And it's going to go higher. Even a couple of weeks ago, President Biden said, there might be food shortages. Imagine, on top of everything else, the concerns about education, the inflation, and now there might be food shortages. Not just it's insane.
Yeah, you're so right. We should really start talking about in dollars. I work in political fundraising a lot and I have candidates who are like, "Why, we're not raising as much money as we used to." And I was like, "Well, go on Instacart and try to buy grapes. It's $8 to buy grapes." So I'm sorry people aren't giving us like $10 here and there anymore because it costs $10 to buy grapes now. Don't even try to get oranges because it's way too expensive.
Right.
These real costs are crazy, and I just can't even
But
imagine this 4 years ago when we had such a booming economy. Just like 2 years into the Trump administration, everybody had a job, everybody's wages up. Now they're like trying to promote like our wage increases are 5%. I was like, awesome, inflation's 9, so de facto no wage increase at all.
Well, see, that's the reason why we should get back to basics. What basics? We need to actually change the curriculum in public schools. This is capitalism. We live in the best country on earth. We need to teach our children from kindergarten all the way up to higher ed, teach them about financial education, investments, taxation, things of that nature. So that way they can actually properly evaluate policy and understand that when you print money and flood the economy with 5 trillion with a T in a short span of time, that is going to drive inflation. And there's only one source of inflation that's directed toward the government, not the government in Russia,
Yeah.
the government right here. Biden is falsely trying to paint Putin as a scapegoat for inflation, but inflation started well before the Ukraine and Russian war. And it's not Putin, it's actually all the bad policies from day one when Biden stepped into the office.
That's absolutely true. And gosh, we're just like killing our transitions here because the next thing I want to talk about is how no one is buying CNN's new streaming service, and maybe that's because no one has any money.
Are
Because
you sure? There are millions of people watching CNN every day as they're making their connecting flights.
yeah, the airports are really keeping it alive, really trying. I know Chris Wallace left Fox News to go to CNN Plus, not even CNN, which is would also be sad. but I hear that he's been crying in his dressing room over this,
Yeah.
because they have less than 10,000 people
Oh,
streaming.
that's terrible. That's
That's
terrible.
that is terrible. And they
Yeah.
had a budget of like 250 million to promote this, which I'll just say I'm pretty sure that Free Press Fail had 10,000 users when we had a budget of like 250, like $2.50. So I'm like not I'm not sure how
There's gonna be more than 10,000 likes on this video right here that we're doing, right?
it better. Like that's what I'm hoping for. That is
Exactly.
a call to action right now, like this video.
The thing is, when you look at CNN, they have a terrible business model, not just from content production, right? Not really telling the news, but also from a financial model. They should have actually launched this a long time ago. It's like showing up to a party, right? Looking for a dance partner, and everyone's already coupled up because they're late to the streaming game. Then when you look at their model, CNN plus fake news equals failure. You have to be able to invite people with opposing opinions, not invite one person and you have five people that gang up on them, including the host. Let's have a fair, honest debate, right, on political, economic, and social issues, and really let the people decide, right? People actually want to see robust debate, right? Because that actually helps them see things from multiple angles.
Yeah. And I think they had such an opportunity with the streaming service too to take a risk. Like it is a lot cheaper to produce streaming stuff. They could have invited some Republicans on there, could have encouraged some conversation, experimented a little. They did not. They
Well, how
completely
about some Republican shows?
yeah,
Like
well,
a host.
their investment. One guy that nobody liked, they brought him over. All the Republicans were mad at him and they were like, that is the one Republican that we like, the one that the Republicans decided they didn't like anymore. So it was just no adventure there, no real investment in the community. And there, of course it failed. It's not shocking at all. But it does make me laugh. So I have to make fun of them because it's like we told you so, guys. We knew this was gonna happen. They didn't
Right.
think it was gonna happen. Ha. Like
But I have breaking news for you. CNN lacks diversity in its programming.
that is true. Not a very diverse network. It's 100% liberal, so that no diversity at all. Uh, just they just stay alive by not being MSNBC. I think is their complete model. They're like we're one step above that, so I guess that keeps them afloat.
Exactly.
Well, in the airports.
Yeah,
Which,
the airports definitely.
um, Fauci was in the news again this week. He's kind of been laying low for a while, but he announced, well, actually CDC announced that there was a mask mandate. So he came on like all the shows to like talk about how the mask mandate was 2 more weeks, just 2 more weeks in the
We're
airport.
back to the 15 days?
Yeah, 15 days to whatever.
It's starting all over again.
Yeah. They're like, I don't think they'll remember. It's been a while. So it's like, this is a cool number. I think everyone's fine with it. So 2 more weeks for masks on planes. No scientific backing on that. Just kind of, I don't even know why at this point. Why are they hanging on to the mask thing? I think everyone's kind of over it.
I'll give them 2 more weeks to learn how to stop the lies.
Yeah.
How about that? Forget the mask mandates and all this other nonsense. And you know what? Fauci actually said what Trump said 2 years ago, right? We have to learn to live at some point, live with it, right? So wait a minute, it took him 2 years to understand the science.
Yeah.
What Americans realized a long time ago? It's ridiculous.
No, it's crazy. And what's weird is, I don't know, they're angling so much so China's back in lockdowns, but like honestly, before COVID, China had lockdowns. They're not a very free society. We know that. But
Right.
whenever these health officials talk about China, they're like, well, yes, they're doing what's best. They're doing what is best. Like Fauci was on, I think actually it was CNN. Maybe he's trying to keep that network alive. And he was talking about how China doesn't have enough of their population vaccinated. And that's why these lockdowns are necessary, that the people are kind of naive about their immunity. So like they have to do that. Meanwhile, like children are literally being separated from their parents in China. Uh, the saddest video I saw this week, like dogs are being killed in the streets if they or their families are infected with COVID. Because I don't know if China knows something about COVID that we don't, but it was necessary to brutally like kill these dogs in the street. And Fauci's out there like, yeah, they're doing what they have to. That's just what they do. Like what are we? We don't stand, our own officials do not stand for American principles. We can't even just say like that's not what we support, but
I,
nothing.
I think people have been conditioned to obey, not actually speak up. And when you look at what has transpired over the last few years, right? They're pushing their agenda, right? One item at a time, right? And they're pushing it. They're constantly feeding Americans what they want them to think. And then if anyone says anything different, they have what? They have cancel culture that threatens, your job, that threatens your livelihood in other ways, right? And your reputation. So what they fail to do is tell the truth, like you just outlined, what's really going on in these other countries, namely China. And they also bash networks and podcasts like this, right? Because they don't want people to go to alternate places to actually hear the truth. So it's an echo chamber that almost serves the purpose of brainwashing and conditioning for people not to think outside the box and to obey.
I
And
think
it's
you're
very
right.
dangerous.
It is so dangerous, but it's so concerning. And you see this time and time again. Like, you're right. These are the people that cancel, the same people who are coming out and saying, like, the Florida parental rights bill is somehow a violation of their civil rights. The ones who boycotted Georgia for like election integrity law, but they release movies in China and they'll edit anything for China. And like just this week, Disney and all of these other woke corporations are coming out against Florida, saying that they're going to do everything they can to repeal the parental rights bill. There's a new, I think it's Warner Brothers, the new Dumbledore prequel is out. And Dumbledore from Harry Potter is gay, but not in China, because you're not allowed to be gay in China. So they edited the movie for release in China. And these same woke corporations will boycott an American state for emphasizing rights that we should not have to redefine in law, if you ask me. But they're going to bow to China, who actually like does terrible things. All of the things that they say that they stand
Right.
for, they will not actually stand for them.
It's what we really can't rationalize their irrational thinking and behavior because it's not sound on face value. Everything that you pointed out, it seems like it should make common sense. Why do they support, I should say, a place that is antithetical to everything that we represent and everything that we uphold? Sure, we have differences of opinion here, but our fundamentals are not aligned with China's. But yet they praise China, and they try to push toward a socialist communist type of environment, but somehow they believe, oh, our version will be different. But when you look at it, what did local, state, and the federal government do during COVID? They used it to assume more power and more control and mandate that you can't do certain things. Now, when you look at education, they're saying we know what's best, and we can see from history when government starts communicating that they know what's best for you and your children. That's a dangerous space, and we need to stop it now.
I completely agree. And you're right. It's just they pretend it's going to be different and it's not. And what is sad is these groups that they always try to divide us. This is by race, this is by sexuality, by gender. None of that matters in a socialist society, and all of those groups that they pretend that they stand for are usually victimized the most by these unfair regimes, and
Sure.
they act like it's an unpredictable kind of cycle. But history doesn't lie; it's very repetitive on
Yeah,
this particular
and we
thing.
need to call out these red flags, no pun intended, when we see them.
Definitely agree. Um, kind of kind of switching for a little more directly political. This week, just bad news all around for the Democrats. I was looking at all of the polling, and I don't usually like polling, but I love when a poll reaffirms what I was already thinking. So I found a couple that did that. So Morning Consult polled swing state voters this year to ask who they favored between Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. And Donald Trump just like swept. I wanted to pull the actual. He beat McConnell by 39 points in Georgia,
Wow.
41 points in North Carolina, 44 in Ohio, and 41 in Pennsylvania. And I know this is like a 2024 poll, but I think it says a lot about where the electorate is like as we head into 2022. And I don't think the soft Republican, that era, I think we might be leaving that behind, which I for one am happy about.
See, the thing is they don't like when people don't stand up and call things out. That's very obvious, and that's what Trump, had done during his run, and he continued after he, took the oath, and he's still doing it now. He's going to call it out, and that's the reason why he needs, Twitter and other, tools. And I hope he continues to do his rallies and is forcing Republicans. Look, everyone doesn't. People don't have to necessarily agree with Trump on everything, right? But the point is, again, when you see improprieties, when you see the left's tactics, you got to be able to come forward and really call out those issues, right? And what we've seen from people like McConnell, people like Brian Kemp, he might end up paying the governor of Georgia. He might end up paying the cost because he actually manipulated the rules, right, for his own gain. Now he reversed those things. Why? Because now it's midterm elections and he doesn't want to actually go through the same electoral process that Trump did. So that's self-serving. People see this, not just in Georgia, they see it in every state across this land. So it's not going to be business as usual in terms of politics. They have the political establishment has to look and see where things are and start telling the truth. And these polls are very telling.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially like we have so much to gain here. The other polling this week was all for Biden. He had he has like a 7% approval rating on the economy right now. That most people think that he's doing bad. That was like the most answers were that he was doing poorly. And he's lost like he only has a 26% approval rating with Hispanics right now, which I think is also telling because the mainstream media and Democrats like to think that every Hispanic voter really wants an open border and that their main issue is immigration. And that is actually just not the case because Hispanic voters are Americans who have a whole variety of issues to worry about. And they're worried about inflation and they're worried about this economy and foreign policy and everything that Biden is failing on. And they're just like, hey, but we left the border open. I was like, that's not doing it. That's
Right.
people don't want that. He just
True.
every poll there is for Biden, he's failing even with demographics that you'd think he would be succeeding with or that they would hope to succeed with.
Right. If we didn't have mail-in balloting, right, Biden would not have won, right? But on top of that, and more importantly, as you pointed out, President Trump got more Hispanics, more Asians, and more Black votes than any other Republican president in like the last 50, 60 years. That's telling.
It's
That's
extremely
how.
telling, actually,
So
that
there's
he
a
considers
shift.
changing demographics also. We
Right.
have wait,
Now, add the education debate, right? Add all these other issues that are coming up, right? In terms of trans athletes destroying women's sport, biological women in sports. All these other issues, the numbers are coming against the Democrats and Biden as their leader is going to be a huge wave because people are saying, okay, enough is enough. And when they read all this craziness and then they go to the grocery store and like, wait a second, we've got to stop this madness and we got to do it now.
absolutely. And you need a Republican to come out and call it madness. We don't need anyone going over there holding hands like, yeah, it's fine. You want to destroy women's sports. I still think we can be friends. It's like, you can be friends off screen, but we need to fight on the main screen. Okay. We do not need to make friends with people who want to destroy our entire way of life. And I think that is something that Trump always made clear. Like, I'm fighting for you. This guy, we might be friends, but we're not friends right now because I'm getting what we need to get done. And I think
Right.
that's the thing that really sticks with
It's the
people.
business of America, nothing personal.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so I always like to end on a light note after we just tear down the president of the United States. To tear him down a little more, but in a more fun way. So I always want to end this on favorite Biden gaffes of the week. And I think my favorite wasn't actually something that he did, but when he was talking, when he was blaming Putin for inflation this week, a bird just pooped right on his jacket.
You know,
And
I had to watch that several times because there's deep fakes and all this other stuff. But I'm like, wow,
it really, you
there's
can't make it up. It's,
you
it was like
really
my hardest
cannot make
moment
it up.
scrolling through, and you're like, I'm getting kind of angry at this rhetoric. And then, all right, that puts things in perspective. Okay, he's just a person, and that bird really did what a lot of people were tweeting that they wanted to do, I guess.
Right.
Was really funny. And then he I don't know if you had a favorite moment other than this, but also he went into a rant against a woman who was like kind of heckling him and told her he was a professor. This is a lie he repeats all the time, that he was a professor, because he's like an honorary Penn professor. And then states that he like I taught classes for 4 years, and he also never has taught a class in his life. And I just kind of like this because I know everyone talks about Biden's mental fitness and it's a decline, but he has literally done this like his entire political career since he was 30 years old. Like, he will just, yeah, I used to play football at that university. Like, yeah, I was a professor there. I used to be a truck driver when I was a minor. Like, he just completely tells these lies as if video evidence will not dispute like everything that he has said. And that just shows me some guys never change. And it's hilarious that he thinks that he will just never get caught on this lie.
Well, I think it's weird, right? I'm a preacher's kid, right? My father was a minister and then eventually became a pastor. And my mom always said, boy, tell the truth and put the devil to shame, right? Biden has not put the devil to shame. Why? Because he's still lying. And if you tell the lies year after year after year after year, it kind of distorts your sense of truth. I really believe he thinks
He
and
does.
believes many of these lies. Why? Because he's said it so many times.
Yeah, I'm
Despite
positive
the
he sends a
fact,
birthday card to Corn Pop, who doesn't
yeah, the
exist,
corn
but
pop,
there's a birthday card.
it's unbelievable. So I think he really believes some of these lies. And when you've been in politics so long, your stump speech, right, and your spiel, it almost is on cruise control. So it comes out naturally. And again, I think he really believes some of these things. And when you add that he needs cue cards, he's not as sharp anymore. that just serves to reinforce the things that are lies. And when he has these long pauses, I think he goes back to many of these stories, right? Because it's almost like his mind is empty, so he's pulling up the old data and regurgitate some of these same lies.
I think
So
you're right.
I think this is it. I mean, I don't think he's going to change. I think this is it. He's not going to get any better. And we have to gear up for 2024. And hopefully the country can survive for another 2 years.
Yeah, if they even run him in 2024. But I personally could go for some more Biden stories. I'd love to hear more of his friends. We had Big Mama came out last week. Never heard her before. She's new, or he's new. I think it was a man, but totally crazy stories from him. But I think that's all we've really got today. Wrapped up the main events of the week, and we hope you really liked it. Everybody should subscribe now so they don't miss an update. And we'll be back next week with more stuff. And
Awesome.
happy Easter. Almost forgot. I hope everyone has a good holiday. Thanks,
All right.
John.
Thank you. Yeah.